I'll tell you this little story, right, about old Bill. Right? Old Bill had come from England, and he was what we used to call a 10-pound pom. And what it was is after World War II, Australia had a big need for workers for our manufacturing base. So a lot of people come over from Italy, I think we had some people from Greece, and a lot of British come over. And they used to be able to catch the boat here for £10. That's where they got their name, 10-pound pom. Now Bill, he was this skinny little guy, right? And us pest controllers used to get dirty because we had to cut holes in the floors of houses because we had to access the subfloors to spray pesticides. It was a dirty job. You had to be carpenter. You had to have a whole heap of trades. You had to move furniture, rip carpet up, cut holes through floors you couldn't see, cut holes in highly polished timber floors, right? All this sort of stuff. So anyway, Bill was well past retirement age, right? And we us guys had just come in with our work uniform, but he used to come in with a tie on, always wore a tie, and he always wore a cowboy hat, right? And you never wanted to work with Bill. He was a disaster. And I think he was about 68, and every time something went wrong, this was true, my boss would ring his wife and say, look, we can't have Bill here anymore, we just can't have him. And she would yell at him and say, don't you dare make me have to put up with him all the time. I will not accept it. And then my boss in the end had just shut up and put the phone down. So we were stuck with Bill, right? And some of the things I saw him do. We were at this really posh house, and at the front of the house they have what is called Italian terrazzo tiles over concrete. Now we had to protect the stone wall of that house, so we had to drill fine little holes down through the edging of this tile and inject pesticide underneath it. So I'd gone and done all that, and then Bill had come around, and I said to Bill, it's all dry now, just get the hose and just wash the tiles up. And I gone around the corner and he's come around and he said, look, the hose is not working. Well, what he'd gone and done is turned the wrong tap. And I don't know how the hose got in the hallway, but it went all over their bookcase, destroyed everything. Right, and that ended up costing the company quite a few $1,000s, that mistake. Another time I cut this hole. It was a slate floor that was stuck over 150-year-old Baltic pine timber floor. And it was a difficult job. And I did it under the refrigerator so you wouldn't see it all. And I just cut it, and as I was cutting it, you use a vacuum cleaner to suck all the dust up, because it's all cement dust. And I said to Bill, I said, take that vacuum cleaner outside, do not touch it, Bill. Do not put your fingers on any of those buttons, all right? And because I said that, he had to. So he pushed the button in reverse and he just sprayed this dust all over the old couple that was standing there. It was their house, and all through their house, right? That cost hundreds of dollars in repairs. Another time we had this big job to do right out of the city, and we left at 4 a.m. It was about, I think, four company vehicles, and the idea was we're going to meet at this town at 6 a.m, go and have something to eat at the roadhouse, and then head out to this property. Well, Bill got there before everyone else, and he fell asleep, and he had his feet hanging out the door. So I thought, well, I'll wake him up. So I went over and tickled his feet, and he went straight up and he hit his head on the mirror. And the poor guy had this biggest lump, poor guy, that you could ever see, and he worked the whole day with it. And on the way home he says, you have to follow me home, I think I'll pass out. Right, so I had to follow him. Now he lived nowhere near me, and the 2-hour trip for me to get back home ended up being a 4-hour trip that night, because I followed Bill all the way back to his house, and he was all over the road. I don't know how he got back home. So that was another thing. And you'd go to a house to do some work. I remember a lady, that's right, she'd come and she said, he's in the nude, he's got no clothes. And I said, yes, he always strips off, right, and then he puts overalls on, all right, so he takes off his tie and flash shirt and all that. But he'd do it in the nude all the time. And a lot of the time we would have elder ladies, and he'd be out there in the nude. It's just what he did, right? It's just what Bill did. So, there was just so many disasters of reversing vehicles into things, and he blew the pump up on my truck. Couldn't believe what he used to do. And this guy he used to have a high-powered V8 car. That was another thing. In the end, they couldn't keep him, right? They had to get rid of him in the end. Didn't matter how much she yelled. My boss said, nah, we got to get rid of him. So they retired him. His wife still couldn't keep him at home, so his wife sent him out with the son-in-law to go and build sheds for chicken farming. And the poor guy was stuck with him, and I think he probably would have wanted to get rid of him and send him back. But I never knew what happened to Bill in the end. I sort of lost contact, but yeah, he was the most funniest character, and he told me that he used to drive semi-trailers all over Europe. And I thought, my goodness, the most dangerous driver. If he was in a vehicle with you, he'd be saying, get going, and I say, no, there's a red light, don't worry about that, get going. He was like that all the time. But yeah, as they say, some mothers do have them.